Suspended between the flesh and soul, we find the gentle spark of life.
These are the Frankenstein files. Right. Okay. It's been a day. I'm going through the motions a little bit. I don't remember when I stopped recording last night, or actually what time I woke up this morning. All of this time here doing the same things over and over, and with the thick cloud cover, it's making the days just sort of bleed into one another. I was definitely up before the sun rose. It's really peaceful, honestly. The study is upstairs, and the back wall is this big window which looks out over the property. I hadn't really been able to see much through it since it's been so caked in ice, but I managed to open one of the panels and chip away at it, and seeing the sunrise over the landscape, making the blankets of fresh fallen snow glow from within with this hazy golden light amongst the gray clouds. It's beautiful. I can see why Percy would want to live here. Spend his time in this room doing whatever it was that he did exactly. I can see why my family would want to keep the property. I almost hope Maggie does. It's been in my mom's family for a long time, I guess. I don't really know. Not that I think I'll ever want to come back here after I get out. I am completely done with this place. But it'd be nice to know it's being kept up. Speaking of getting out, I managed to clear out my car this morning. Not that I can do anything with it at this point, but it's given me a little hope, if nothing else. I've just been debating using it to try and plow through the snow, but honestly, after it was dug out enough that I could sit inside and make sure it still runs, I just came inside and crashed for most of the afternoon. I've been listening through most of the lectures that I skipped over. I've been working on what I'm actually supposed to be doing and clearing out the house, finding things I want and all of that. So I just put them on in the background. Percy was kind enough to stock up on a ton of canned soup, which is a godsend. If I can't get out here before I run out of the things I bought. I'm getting pretty sick of ramen as it is. And I've been transferring my notes, I guess? I found these boxes of, empty index cards, so I've been moving my notes onto them from the book that I was using before. Cards for Victor and his university, for Beth and her poetry, etc. I don't know. I've been arranging them in little groups like this on the floor. Makes it a little easier to visualize everything. I can't claim to have really picked up anything from Dr. Waldman's lectures, but I can see why Victor preferred those classes over his others. At least based on the number of tapes for different classes. Hell, by the end of the semester, he was basically only recording Waldman. But they're soothing, almost. Great background noise. To feel like there's someone else around me. To focus with and feel less isolated. But anyway, that brings me to why I'm recording. Other than updating this, whatever this log is now, something about the first lecture of 1970. It's different. It's not Dr. Waldman, for a start, and it's not all a lecture, either. The interesting part isn't, at least. Even Victor seems... I don't know. Here, I should just play it.
Good morning, students. Thank you. Yes, if everyone could quiet down, thank you. As you may have noticed, I'm Quite obviously not Dr. Waldman. Unfortunately, your usual professor is attending to personal matters and has been unable to return for the start of the school year. He assures you all that there's nothing to worry about and he's doing well. And of course, I'm sure you will all be made aware should this turn of events be prolonged to an extent that it affects your grades. In the meantime, my name is Dr. Krenn. It's a pleasure to meet you all. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a professor of organic and applied chemistry here at Ingolstadt. I handle the convening of several of our second and third year courses, so I'm sure many of you can look forward to having me in my own classroom at some point in the near future. Until then, however, I will be substituting for Dr. Waldman in the lecture component of this class until their return. Now, according to the notes I was given, you were intending to finish off the fall learning semester with a discussion of alchemy and historical chemistry. However, given it will not be featured on your exams, I hope you'll excuse me if I gloss over that particular subject of historical trivia. We'll be picking up instead with a look into the... Thank you. Yes, I'll certainly pass that on.
Excuse me, Professor?
Yes. How can I help you?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I was just hoping to ask a couple of questions about the lecture, if you're not too busy.
Oh, I'm sure I've got a few minutes to spare. What can I do for you, Mr.
Frankenstein.
Ah, of course. Victor Frankenstein, isn't it? I've read your admission essay. It was incredibly well worded. You impressed quite a bit of the board. I've heard a lot about you from Dr. Waldman. You record the lectures for notes in the front row, correct?
Yes, that's me. Sorry, it's still running. I can turn it off if you'd prefer.
No, by all means. Feel free to leave it going. I'd like for you to get as much out of the conversation as possible, certainly.
Right, of course. Thank you. And I'm flattered to hear you've read some of my essays. I didn't expect that.
Yes, well, I parsed over them as part of the department's decision for scholarship allocations. Your grasp of applied biochemistry is incredibly admirable for an undergraduate level. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing some of your work progress, should I have you in future classes.
Well, I'm certainly excited to take some of your classes as they come up.
Always a pleasure to hear that from students. What can I do for you this afternoon exactly, Mr. Frankenstein?
Oh, right, yes. I was actually hoping to ask about the content we skipped over. The alchemy unit that Professor Waldman laid out in the class overview.
Ah, well, it should have been a fairly brief topic of discussion at the start of the semester. I wouldn't have expected it to come up so late in the course. And as I mentioned, it's not on the exam. I wouldn't worry about it.
No, yes, I understand, but, I was hoping to glean more about some of the potential applications in broader study.
Applications? Mr. Frankenstein, there are no applications of the subject. I hope you didn't misunderstand the inclusion in the curriculum. The brief unit on alchemy is purely for historical context in the field of chemistry. It's there to keep the attention of students who are taking mandatory science units for other majors. It's a curiosity, more than anything.
Right, yes, I know that. Only over the winter break, I've been studying some of the works of Paracelsus and even Cornelius Agrippa, when I can find certain texts, and I really feel as though there could be something.
Cornelius Agrippa? I've got to say, it's amiable to see your dedication to learning about the many branches of scientific history, but Paracelsus is certainly not worth your time or effort. Their works are interesting to see how far we've come in our understanding of science, perhaps. But for a young man like yourself, at this stage in your education, there are certainly many more useful bodies of work. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Mr. Frankenstein, but science is no closer to turning lead into gold than it was 500 years ago.
But we are closer to extending human life.
In the sense that medical advancement has springboarded off such lofty goals to true miracles of science, yes, I suppose. Although if you think yourself so well read on the topic, I'm sure you know we're not exactly close to discovering the elixir of life.
Well, that's the thing. I think perhaps we could be closer than is often imagined. I mean, modern medicine has made incredible strides in life-saving transplant surgeries and resuscitation and defibrillation even. And as far back as the 1920s, there are frameworks in Russian scientific studies that break down our understanding of the body's capacity to have core functions survive longer after death than was previously expected.
Many of which are highly contested scientific studies, Mr. Frankenstein. Sorry. I'm not sure I follow where you're going with this.
Of course, and they're debated, yes, but if someone could, if we could, as scientists, take some of these alchemical concepts and apply modern scientific understandings of chemistry and biology, is there not untapped potential for groundbreaking results? I mean, we know that given the correct electrical impulses and medicines, a body can be brought back from the brink of death. Some of these principles could lengthen the time frame doctors and surgeons could have to work on curing patients. Even the possibilities of bringing someone back to life
Mr.
are...
Frankenstein! Victor, if I may, the things you're discussing aren't... Resuscitation is a miracle of modern science, I agree, but it has its limits. All science has its limits, and death is one of them. Lives are lost, bodies decay, damage is done to the cells that can't be reversed. The conditions to bring someone back from even momentary clinical death have to be so specific that the application of such techniques is exceedingly rare. That's not even getting into the complexities of brain death, the damage to the brain or the muscular cells alone, disregarding the lasting effects of whatever caused the death in the first place.
But if we could stop that, hypothetically, I mean, if there was a way we could pause that decay, prevent it, even consider a body after death but suspended in stable cellular condition, if the body was in perfect health...
With respect, Mr. Frankenstein, if a body was in perfect health, it wouldn't be dead to begin with. I understand your excitement. Truly, I do. Such passion about science is inspiring to see, and I would be honored to help harbor it in my class's curriculum. But these hypotheticals you've collected from alchemical writings, as interesting as they may seem, are the ungrounded fantasies of an unenlightened time. Perhaps, yes, one day science will find a way to counteract certain causes of death. But science moves forward with slow, steady steps, for the sake of safety for all involved. And you are speculating something leaps and bounds beyond science as we know it.
I understand that, Professor, but...
Your passion is admirable, Victor. Even in this one conversation, I have seen more of it for this field of study than I have in most students I teach. You show incredible promise in the field. I don't say that lightly. But these sweeping dreams of grandeur aren't worthy of such intense mental effort. I would hate to see you burn yourself out striving for the impossible when there's a world full of possibilities at your fingertips. Alchemy, for all of its promises, delivers little. And, while science admittedly promises little, it can achieve so many great things. Don't lose yourself in empty promises.
Of course. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Kremp.
I'll tell you what. You have thrown yourself into this research, I can tell, far beyond anything mentioned on the required reading for the classes. I have some books in mind that may interest you, more grounded topics, admittedly, but similar. Neurochemistry, cellular decay, the like. The building blocks of science in the fields you're discussing. I can compile a list before your next lecture, perhaps. Purely recommendations, of course. There's no pressure to look into them. And they certainly shouldn't be prioritized over your classwork, but if they speak to your interests, I think you would enjoy them.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you, Professor.
Of course, I would be glad to. You have plenty of talent to foster, Mr. Frankenstein, and you found yourself the perfect environment to do so at Ingolstadt. Just try not to get carried away in the impossible.
Yes. Certainly. Thank you for your time, Dr. Crump.
Any time. Now, I shouldn't keep you from anything else on your schedule. Good day, Mr. Frankenstein.
Good day, Professor.
Is that weird? And it just feels different. I don't know why this comes back to alchemy. Whatever Percy had going on and whatever this is, with Victor just throwing himself into it, it's something. And it feels like it should be something important to Percy, to the tapes. I don't know what it is. I found some info about Paracelsus in Percy's books, and not any of his actual works, but references to him in some of the alchemy books, short summary kind of pieces about him, stuff like that. I haven't actually been game enough to try and read through all of these books, and even if I was, I don't have time for that right now. It's not the first time Victor has been looking into decay. He mentioned it a few tapes back, and I guess it's not completely out of the ordinary for someone in his field. But the whole conversation with Dr. Crimp here feels weird. I'm listening to Victor like that. He feels separate. There's one of the poems in Beth's book about leaving parts of yourself behind, the body falling to pieces, each section of you separated like cuts of meat from an animal. About how every time you leave somewhere, a part of you gets left behind there too. And the longer you've been there, the larger part of yourself you sacrifice. A rib, a shank, a brisket. And it's just been in my head, I guess, having Victor leave again after those last few tapes over the holidays. How much did Victor leave behind in Geneva Creek? How much of him is still sitting there with Beth? Or with Henry? How much of me is still out there somewhere with Maggie or Georgie or just not here? Not who I am anymore. The first time I went home for break after being away at school, when Maggie and I got into one of the first fights we had, it felt like I had left something behind when I went back to see her. Or maybe I'd left a part of me at home when I went off to school in the first place and I just hadn't noticed. But it was like the doors I had closed behind me were locked and I couldn't get back through, and I was just yelling from the other side. Because the me that was there didn't have the other part of me that should have been there. I used to tell myself that it was just part of growing up and moving out and moving on with life, that it was just setting aside feelings that were immature and I didn't need, but sometimes I wonder if it's just easier to leave those pieces behind than it is to fight to stitch them back on. To put that effort into being whole again. How much does it matter if I don't have all the pieces? It doesn't matter. It's not important to the tapes. I've just been thinking about it. The poem struck me a lot more than I expected it to. Maybe trying to apply its meanings to Victor means I just don't have to consider applying it to myself. Either way, all of this just feels like there's still pieces that are missing. Parts I don't have.
That's weird. It's less weird than when I talk to myself. Okay, um, I've been thinking a lot today, or since the lecture yesterday, really. I feel I feel like an idiot, honestly. What was I thinking? Just going up to Professor Kremp like that. I never even spoken to him before, and I started rambling about alchemy of all things, and he probably thinks I'm an idiot, or at least he thinks less of me than he did when he read my papers, which I know I'm not. That's the first thing Beth or Henry would tell me if I said something like that. They'd tell me I'm not an idiot, and usually that would be comforting, but that's not the issue right now. It's not that I did something wrong. It's I know I'm right about something, and it feels like Professor Kremp didn't even want to hear me out. Waldman would have listened. Waldman would have at least heard me out about it because I'm right about it. I just been thinking about it since Christmas, since Beth gave me the book, and I have notes and everything. I've been reading into this for weeks now, months if I bring in all the work I was doing with Dr. West and for my other classes, and I feel like I have something here. I can do something no one else has been able to do. If I just had the chance to test some of the notes, I made formulas. I could stagnate cell breakdowns. This could pause decay, properly halt its progress, keep a body healthy and suspended and alive. I mean, think about all the lives something like that could save. All the people like my mom, like Beth's mom. There are chemical aldehyde solutions used in embalming and even in burgeoning cryogenesis fields that strengthen and coagulate proteins in cells to stave off bacteria. So if something could be isolated from those factors in a way which still allowed for protein stimulation and ATP production, it could help people. I could help people. It could change the very understanding of life as we know it and the components of harnessing it. Only I can't just do that. I'm surrounded by some of the most advanced research and scientific facilities in the world, and I can't do anything with it. Because why would they let me? I don't have proof of any of this, and I can't get proof without access to things, and I just need to prove it. I just need to show that I'm right about this. There is something here. Maybe Kremp's right. Maybe not an elixir of life, but something. I just need access to the resources, the equipment. And I suppose I do have access. Just don't have permission. If I'm right, if this is... If I can do this, prove that it works, nobody is gonna care if I have permission.
This episode of The Frankenstein Files was written, directed, and edited by Connor Wasn't Here. It starred the vocal talents of J. Amphibian as Beau Walton, the Beetle Bard as Victor Frankenstein, and Green DM as Professor Kremp. The theme song was composed by the uninformed Xennial. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to like and comment, along with rating or reviewing the show, and following or subscribing on your preferred platform to hear future installments. If you'd like to interact with our community, find transcripts of episodes, and be alerted of any announcements regarding content, the show's Tumblr tag and the Wayward Bones community Discord can be found linked in the show notes along with our Patreon. Word of mouth is also the best way to help us grow, so be sure to let people know about us if you think they'd enjoy the podcast. Your support is the spark that keeps the show alive. Thank you for listening.